Welcome back. Now, you've all heard about a midlife crisis, but what about a quarter-life crisis?
And do you have to get the fancy car and a quarter-life one as well?
Yeah,
midlife
get the
one?
Ferrari.
It affects 77% of young people today. So here to explain more is high-performance coach Mark Fennell. Good morning,
Mark.
to you.
Good morning to you. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you with us. So 77% is a massive figure. So give us, what is a quarter-life crisis and what age do we say is a quarter-life crisis?
Generally, 25 to 35 is kind of the age group. LinkedIn did a research and they said that 75% of people said they've had one. But what is crisis for one person may not be for another, so there's also that as well. And it's basically, I mean, as far as Wikipedia is concerned, it's an anxiety around where we're at and a questioning and a nervousness. Am I in the right place at the right time, whether it be relationally, socially, financially, everything.
And so how does it differ then from the one we know as a midlife crisis, which typically sees a man buy the fast car, break up his marriage? So how does it manifest when you're in your quarter life?
I tell you what, it's like a bookend. The midlife is kind of this bookend, but the quarter is kind of the first one. And what they did was, a fascinating research on it, anxiety and stress really increase when we hit kind of 18, 19, 20, and it really spirals up in our 20s into our 30s. But then it kind of plateaus. It's not that the stress goes away, but our ability to manage it gets to be a little bit better. We're a little bit more tolerant. And what happens is it's kind of a coming of age. Now, if you fast forward with the stress drops off in retirement, but then we have this other fear of, now what? Who am I? I'm not that job anymore. So what do I do with my life now? Oh, I'll get a car or motorbike, stereotypical stuff.
Okay, so what would be a symptom then of a quarter-life crisis?
And it can kind of vary, but for most people, it's an unnerving or it's an anxiety around, am I in the right place at the right time? We remember the question when we were younger, what do you be when you're older?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that question, but now it's like, well, I'm older. Am I the right thing? Am I in the right place? And for a lot of people, it's goals. Am I at the right stage at the right time? Because there's three types of pressures. There's peer, there's parent, and then there's kind of societal pressure. You know, well, at this age, you should be married with kids and so forth. And we all know it doesn't always go according to plan and the goalposts do move.
Yeah.
So there's that. And there's two types of crisis. There's the locked in and the locked out. So the locked in is I'm stuck in a position relationally or, you know, a job that I don't like. And then there's the locked out. I can't get to where I want to go. So it's one or the other. And it's a good question to start with when you're trying to figure it out.
And then when you're talking about the different types of pressure, where it's, you know, parent or peer, has social media just exacerbated that completely then for people, for this generation?
We now have the comparison. You know, we've got this, we're living our life and we're scrolling and just making sure, are we living our life just like everyone else is living their life?
Yeah.
So we definitely have this comparison, but we're seeing it and we're available to it a lot more frequently. And so there's also then, you see the studies come out and different things. And as we read them and go, well, oh, I'm 27. Yeah, I am feeling, oh, maybe there's something wrong. So we're constantly kind of, I suppose, getting these sound bites that can create this fear in us. Am I in the right place at the right time? But it's fixable. That's the good news. But the worst thing that people tend to do is they bury it under the carpet. They go through the motions, and then the job they hated when they were 25, they're now 35, and they despise the job and everything around it, and they kind of lose themselves a bit.
And I'd say a big part of that as well, maybe don't like the job, maybe they do love the job, maybe they're in a great relationship, but they always vision when you get to your 30s, you're going to own your own house. And there's so many people still living at home with their parents, they're living in rental accommodation, they can't get themselves onto the housing ladder. So I'd say that adds a huge amount of stress for people as well.
It is, because especially if you've got peers that are buying a house and you're not, like you can feel like you're a failure, even though you're not a failure. But this narrative, this is what I see with clients, they feel like everyone's ahead of me. I feel like I'm behind. I shouldn't have gone traveling. You know, I shouldn't have gone this thing. And I said, no, you wanted to travel at the time, go do it. I always say, we make the best decisions at the time with the knowledge we had at the time.
Yes.
You know, so go with it. Make peace with it. Hindsight's a great thing for us all.
Yeah.
So in terms of like wanting a goal, so by 35 I want a house. So do you think setting goals is the wrong way to go, or do you think setting goals is because we always say set goals, it's a good thing to measure yourself against whatever else, but actually it's putting more pressure on yourself, is it?
It is. I'm one of these, I say have goals but don't have a timeline. And what I mean by that is have a ballpark. Don't say, you know, in 3 years this, the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan. It's good to have goals, but be prepared, goalposts move. You know, my story, we wanted to have kids at a certain, you know, we thought, oh, we're this age now, whatever else. It didn't just happen. And we had to deal with that for a number of years. So things change, and be prepared to that. So give yourself a thing called grace and go, you know what, this is the ideal plan, but I'm comfortable if it changes.
Yeah, because that's what would think like some things are within your control, but say you do just want to meet someone, say you're single and you're watching this, you're like, I'm doing everything I can, and yet I'm just not with a person, say they want to start a family. So what do you say to people like that watching, where they can't really control those factors?
Yeah, good question, and it's a common question I get asked. People just say, look, I'm just lonely. Everyone else is fine, I'm just lonely, you know, and this is a 30-something who just hasn't met the right person. I always say it like this, a good little practice you can do, right? It's very simple. Write down a list, line down the middle, controllables and non-controllables, and say, right, whatever's in the non-controllables, you cannot control, so don't give them time and energy. What can I control? What can I do? You know, and look at that. But then sometimes people say, well, just put yourself out there more, and that's really annoying to someone who's going, yeah, okay, I'll just keep putting myself out there and go on all these horrible dates. So it's finding a plan that works for you and a routine that works for you that's realistic, you know, and I always say, better be lonely and unhappy than in a relationship and very unhappy. So at the same time, so you're better off, I know that sounds maybe hard to take, but sometimes you're better off wait for the right person than speed up and get into the relationship with the wrong one.
And quickly, can I just ask you, if you're a parent or someone who sees their child or somebody they know going through this, or a boss, what is it just like,
what can you do?
Yeah, what can you do?
First of all, assess where's the pressure coming from and why, what triggered it off. You know, was there a statement, some question, number one. Secondly, what is it that you feel you are missing? So what is it that you feel is giving you anxiety that you don't have? And then start to work out a plan around what can I do to create a routine that might start bringing that into my life. It is fixable. Time does help with it, but the worst thing we can do is get overwhelmed with fear from it. You don't have to fear it. It is a transitional time that most of us go through, statistics show, and it's okay with that. So sometimes you have to say, I'll be grand.
I'll be grand.
I'll be grand.
Quarter life crisis. 77% of people said they're going through it. If people want to find out, Mark Fennell on Instagram, but you're going to hang around because we've got a load of questions in about not just quarter life crisis, midlife crisis. If you have any questions that you want to give to Mark, and we're going to throw it at him today, 0896 111 111, send them in to us.
Brilliant. We'll see you back after this break.